Hello, I am Brittany, your Well Soul coach. I create a safe space for women healing anxious attachment, regulating their nervous systems, and learning to date from love and peace. So let's get right into it. Tonight, we are going to be talking about anxious attachment explained from a new perspective. Oftentimes, when we hear the word anxious attachment, we think of something extremely negative, somebody who's doing too much or they're clingy and too emotional, so to speak. But tonight, I want you to grasp your mind around the fact that anxious attachment can be noted in a slightly different way. And to be honest, it all starts from childhood, just like everything else lands in the coaching world of childhood. So, the question of the hour is, how did you learn to carry love or distance? So, anxiety isn't coming from how much you care about the person, how much you may love or not really love or not care for them at all. It really comes down to your nervous system and how you learned to interpret the closeness or the distance that your parents or caregivers or even siblings may have given you or may not have given you. It's all about your nervous system and what you learned and how you learned. So let's take a look at this perspective shift. Most people believe that anxious attachment means you're too needy, you're too emotional, or you're too much. But that's, again, not accurate. The accurate word to describe it is hyper relational intelligence. I'll say it again: hyper relational intelligence. Your system learned that I have to stay alert to closeness because it can disappear. So your body adapted to that. Quick story: if you know me, you know that I am adopted. And you also know that those who are adopted can have the rejection piece, the abandonment piece. And with those things comes the longing for a closeness and longing for love and connection. And if a little bit of that is slightly taken away, then yes, the nervous system wreaks havoc on your mind and on your spirit, because it's like, wow, somebody great could come into my life, but guess what? They just might leave. They just might disappear. And you don't have to be adopted to have those feelings either. But I did want to throw that in, that again, things that happen to us mentally, spiritually, emotionally, oftentimes show up from our past. So our behaviors that we are uh, engrossed in now and involved in now, you got to take it back. That's why I'm a high proponent of shadow work and reaching back, looking at the dark past, the perceived dark past, in order to move forward into the future. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into this perspective shift, shall we? So, anxious attachment is not about weakness. It's about how your nervous system learned to survive the connection or not. Through my adoption, as I stated earlier, I did learn that I better love super strong and tightly, or else they're going to leave me. And let me add, for my own good. And many times, us women, we create things and create stories in our minds that help us to feel safe and to feel protected. It's really our minds that want to shield us from what we think is harm. That's why the for my own good came into play. And with that being said, I learned how to people please. And we can pause right here and you can ask yourself, what has happened in your past that allowed you or created space for you to people please? Were you adopted? Were your parents there for you? Or were you pretty much on your own to raise yourself? Now, of course, this is not about shaming, blaming, finger pointing, being a victim, none of those things. But coming to you as a coach, as a well soul coach, we must be comfortable with facing the uncomfortable in order to grow. So, just another example: through relationships, I learned to love really hard and prove that I'm worthy of being chosen, man, over and over and over. But little did I know that I was already chosen by Christ. And I had to learn how to choose myself also. So we're going to pause right there. I'm going to take a deep breath. And you're going to ask yourself, have you chosen yourself? Do you realize that you've already been chosen and that you do not have to prove yourself, your worth, your value to any man or to any woman or to any institution, any job, any friend, any child? You know, sometimes our children really test those boundaries. And sometimes we feel like they're running the show, but guess what? We don't have to prove anything to anyone. With that being said, I have another self-reflection question for you. So when someone pulls back, that someone being either someone you're in a close relationship with, a love relationship, possibly even a parent, maybe a friend, but when they get quiet or when they change their rhythm, think about this. What does your body do? Does your body immediately try to make meaning out of something? Not your mind. Think about your body. How does your heart feel? Your hands, your body. What is your body trying to tell you? So oftentimes, our body tells us that connection feels regulating. And it doesn't matter what kind of connection it is. That brings me to the song by Lauryn Hill, When It Hurts So Bad, When It Hurts So Bad. Why does it feel so good? And we can take a deep dive into that, all a webinar all on its own. But we choose oftentimes what we need to heal. People don't show up in our lives just for nothing. Oftentimes our souls have reached out, even if it seems like an inappropriate or toxic, horrible relationship, but your soul is longing to heal in the manner in which it needs that other person. So it feels good because it's a connection, not necessarily that it's good for us. Number two, the distance, of course, feels threatening. It almost gives us that fight or flight sensation. And we all know that fight or flight did serve us, human beings, in a way when we needed to either flee for our lives because we were trying to look for food or look for something to keep us warm, safe, and protected, keep us safe from animals. But oftentimes our nervousness in our bodies, we get so discombobulated in what we're going through that can pose a fight or flight scenario in our bodies. Our bodies don't know the difference. And possibly your body reacts before logic can intervene. So you're not actually responding to what is actually happening. You're responding to what your system predicts is about to happen. So let's take a brief recap. Connection feels regulating, no matter what type of connection. I'm sorry, yes. And then again, recognizing the patterns right when it's happening is really what's going to help to elevate you. And after a while, it's not going to feel good. It's going to hurt bad and it's going to feel bad. Recap, distance feels threatening. It doesn't matter the gap of time. It could be you haven't heard from this person in 2 hours, and that flight or flight is taking on a whole new personality. And then another just small recap. You're not even thinking anymore. You're just reacting from the fight or flight, from the connection that may or may not be the most healthy for us in the moment. So let's put it all together. Once you are recognizing the patterns, once you see what is happening for what it is, some things are starting to make a little bit more sense now, right? So now we understand why we're over explaining ourselves, why we are people pleasing, Now we understand why we are seeking reassurance and validation and acceptance. Now we are understanding why we are replaying conversations over and over. Why are we looping what has happened a million times? We can understand why we are feeling peaceful one moment, but panic the next moment. Guys, these are not character flaws. Okay? Don't think that anything is wrong with you, because oftentimes that's where our minds go. What is wrong with me? I'm not worthy. We start tearing ourselves down. But please, I implore you to stop doing that and know that your body is trying to regulate itself the best way it can. And your mind still thinks that you're not safe and it's trying to protect you. So the real shift begins when you stop asking, why am I like this? What is wrong with me? And the game changer is, what does my nervous system need right now? And I'm going to take my sip of green tea while we think about that. It's important to recognize the patterns that our bodies are telling us, and we adhere to what our nervous system needs right now. Sometimes we just need to pause, take a deep breath, hold it, release it. What I just did was box breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, and blow out for 4 counts. Sometimes your nervous system needs a little bit of a shock. Tell the little girl you're okay. Tell the baby in you you're safe. And I definitely had to tell myself that over and over again until I realized, you know what? I am safe. Why am I safe? Because God has already chosen me. I have already chosen me. Whether this man or job or boss has chosen me or not, I am already good and chosen. So let's reframe some things. Healing anxious attachment doesn't necessarily start with choosing better people, because guess what? We can choose the same man or the same woman or the same type of job over and over and over again. And we end up having the same results. Same results, different body, different name. But we've got to stop that. It starts with becoming a safer place inside of yourself first. When internal safety increases, external panic decreases. Let's reframe. Again, if you've been labeling yourself as clingy, dramatic, or too sensitive, just please be gentle with yourself and know that your system learned to love through uncertainty, and it's doing its job. It adapted brilliantly. So you must recognize the pattern. Ask yourself, what does my nervous system need right now? It needs safety. It needs to be reassured that it's safe. Your body is safe. Your mind is safe. Your emotions are safe. You've been chosen already. You don't have to perform for anyone. Know that anxious attachment isn't something to get rid of per se. It's something to understand. Because once you understand it, you can stop fighting yourself. And from there, you can start building relationships from regulation instead of fear. And that awareness alone creates more peace than people realize. Okay. I'll also add that once you are in that stable, self-regulated place, then you can make decisions such as, is this man good for me? Is this man good for my nervous system? How do I feel after I'm talking with him, being in his presence? How do I even feel when I'm not around him? And it could be a job situation. I mean, right now we're talking about dating, love, and relationships. So we'll keep it at that. But this can really truly go for everything. But you want to build your decision making with a clear, concise mind frame. Because if not, you're going to be blocking everybody like that. You're going to be cutting everybody off like that just to get the same person again and again and again. Because, my dear friends, we will get the same situation through a different person or a different situation until we learn what our soul needs correction on, until we have gotten it right, until we have passed the test. Our Creator is going to keep giving us tests to pass. So, what's next, my lover girls? Stay tuned next Wednesday for another Wednesday webinar series around relationships and nervous system regulation. You can also join my free school community at www.school.com/the-sacred-circle-2993 That's a lot, right? But it's right here for you. And I will also link it in the caption. Please enjoy some Lover Girl Recovery resources at lovergirlrecovery.com. And if you'd like for me to speak to your women's group or facilitate a relationships workshop around love, self-love, nervous system regulation, and anxious attachment, all of the things, right? Please call or text me at 864-918-5243. Again, I am Brittany Neely, your Well Soul Coach. I'm here for you, and I can't wait for us to connect next week. All right, have a good one.